Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This webinar is all about how to grow, retain talent using the power of apprenticeships. So my name is Lauren Johnson. I'm one of the team leaders here at LMP Education. Joining me today is Emily Archer, who is our recruitment manager. We also have Sophie Day, who works as a client success manager. And then we have the amazing guest speaker, Leah, who'll be joining us today and sharing some slides. So let's go. So who are we then? So we are LMP Group. So we form of 3 companies, and we have a collective mission to inspire ambition. So we provide opportunities, support social change across the UK. We focus on training, education, and social impact. We work together to bring positive and sustainable development, serving organisations and individuals nationwide. We aligned with our 4 core values, which are have compassion, ensuring quality, be inspiring, and take action. So I'm going to start off here with about what is levy and am I a levy organisation? I get this question asked a lot. So I thought, why not put this in the presentation? So what is apprenticeship levy? Apprenticeship levy was created in April 2017. Levy is funding only used for training purposes, so such as apprenticeship courses. Companies with a £3 million annual payroll pay 0.5% into something that's called a levy pot. So these payments are made monthly into the pot. Now, if employers don't use their levy, they will lose it within 24 months, and then it goes straight back to the government. Over 2 billion has been unspent of levy, so that's a huge amount of money there. So levy is designed, obviously, to use for training purposes. Now, non-levy, of course, it's kind of the opposite here. So non-levy payer would be an organisation that doesn't have a payroll of over 3 million. And this means they don't pay into the levy. So what the government will do is they will help by giving them a bit of an incentive. So if you was to take on someone that's aged between 16 and 18, they're fully funded. That means that no course cost is necessary for that individual. If they are 19 plus, that means they're partly funded. So the government will support smaller organisations and fund 95% of the apprenticeship course. So, of course, this means that 5% will be left to pay by the employer. And this cost does depend on which course of interest. And towards the end of the slides on the webinar, you will be able to see our course listing, and it gives you a rough idea of the value of the course. And obviously that would be just the 5% from that. We do have payment plans as well. So if the employer wishes to split this cost up, we can do that. One nice thing that the government will do is give £1,000 incentive for taking on that young individual. It's all about keeping them in education, guys. So we will organise the £1,000 incentive for you. Okay, over to you, Emily.
Thank you. So the first method is to hire an apprentice. So firstly, why as a business should you recruit an apprentice? So hiring an apprentice is a productive and effective way to grow talent and develop a motivated, skilled and qualified workforce. You as the employer would be eligible for a £1,000 grant paid in 2 instalments if the apprentice is aged under 19 at enrolment. You'd have a huge saving on national insurance and £3,000 per employee. If you hire an apprentice or upscale a current member of staff onto an apprenticeship programme, you'll not pay NI for any apprentice under the age of 25. You'd save on salary. So from April 2025, the apprenticeship minimum wage is £7.55. And then just a couple of stats for you. So 92% of companies that have taken on apprentices believe this leads to a more motivated and satisfied workforce. And 80% have seen a significant increase in employee retention. So apprentices who train within a company are then more likely to stay long-term, reducing recruitment and training costs. So here at LMP Education, we have a talent pool of over 50 applicants, all eager to kickstart their career. They're just waiting for the right opportunity. And the vacancies that we typically recruit for are business admin, teaching assistants, accountants, and early years. How can we support here at LMP Education? So we provide a completely free recruitment service. We have a dedicated team of recruiters that advertise, check applicants' eligibility and criteria that you provide as the employer, and then we forward those candidate CVs over to you to review, interview, and hire. Just recently, maths and English are no longer needed, nor are functional skills if the learner is 19 plus. So we advertise on popular platforms such as Indeed, the National Apprenticeship Service, and Glassdoor, and we pre-screen every applicant, making sure that they're eligible and suitable for the role that you want us to advertise. We also work with over 100 referral partners. We don't just rely on advertising, and we aim to take the hard work away from you, basically for hiring new staff. And our process is not, it's not set in stone. We can work to suit you. So if you have application forms to complete, we would try and work with you the best that we can. We offer a fast and efficient service. So we shortlist candidates. Well, we aim to shortlist candidates in around 2 to 3 working days. And currently we are filling vacancies within 2 to 4 weeks of advertising. Like I previously said, we've got a talent pool of candidates who are ready to go. So sometimes we don't even need to advertise on your behalf. And just last year, we placed 600 apprentices into vacancies. So we're aiming to exceed that this year.
Okay, so method 2, which is all about upskilling existing staff using apprenticeships. So, of course, keeping staff, feeling like they're invested. If you're invested in their career development, it's a promotion. Maybe they've just took on a role of leader. They don't necessarily have the qualifications to do so, but they want to further their skill sets and knowledge for the team that they're managing. There is no contract change or no salary change. I get asked this question a lot where they've said, oh, it's an apprenticeship course. I'm in my 50s, does that mean I'm going to be paid apprenticeship salary? No, not at all. Honestly, not at all. Nothing changes whatsoever. We call it an upskill apprenticeship course for a reason. And most of our upskill courses are from level 3 to up to 5. So it wouldn't be necessarily someone that could go on to like a level 5 that we're recruiting for on a £6.40 per hour, or the new rate of £7.55 in April. It's literally, there is no change. And just to think about your future leaders as well. So any sort of career paths that you may have, we can actually create bespoke career paths for your organisation. So there's just a few examples here of what we can do, the career pathways that we have in courses. So you've got your accounts or finance assistant level 2. Once they complete, they can go on to an accounts assistant level 3, and then they can finish on a professional accounting technician level 4. So there is a great career path for your, maybe, I don't know, an apprentice that you just hired maybe, and you want to keep them in the business. You could keep upskilling them onto the, the next level. Or we've got here operations administration level 3. So someone in your admin team, they've discovered that, they've worked really well within the team. They've now actually become a head of that administration department. So why not upskill them onto the team leader level 3? And then they've even furthered themselves in their career now. So they may be managing the whole department. So why not then upskill them onto our operations manager level 5? So just some ideas here of what LMP can do. And we do have many different pathways. It might be that someone that has done an operations administration level 3, but then wants to go into more of a safeguarding aspect. We've got other courses and other pathways of where they can go to.
Thanks, Lauren. So I thought I would talk more about the learner journey. So what an apprenticeship typically looks like. So there are 3 phases. Phase 1 is where the applicant, whether that's an upskill or an existing staff member or a a new apprentice. Phase 1 is where we will check a skill scan, so check eligibility, make sure they're on the right course for them. They'll have an initial assessment which checks their maths and English skills, as well as enrolling them onto the system. Phase 2 is where they're onboarded onto their learning platform. We use Bud as a learning platform throughout all our apprenticeships, and they will then meet their tutor, have regular progress reviews, and that's where they'll have access to the resources for the learning stage. And then phase 3 is where they will then sit their endpoint assessment. So this is where they'll have ongoing advice and guidance, that progression and CIAG advice to see whether or not they would like to progress onto another course, and ongoing development advice. Thanks, Lauren.
Brilliant. So, how is the training delivered? Of course, very important. So, we have a blended way of learning. We're very flexible, so we like to suit our, our clients' needs. Our tutors will create a plan. We do a one-to-one remote session. So these are between 4 to 6 weeks. However, IAT programs are run between weeks. We do include webinars and workshops, and these are recorded at ease. So we completely understand that things may pop up sometimes, hence why we record these sessions. And where observations are required, these can be done remote or on site. The beauty of how we deliver our training is there's no college release day. So that means there's more quality time with the employer. And they only need to travel to work. It's not like they're having to go to a college nearby or miles away. It's literally just to work. Now, if you are familiar with apprenticeship training, you may have heard of off-the-job hours. Used to be termed as 20% off the job. This will be needed in all of our courses. So our tutors work well to help tailor to the position, and they have great guidance on what counts as off the job. How I sort of word this is look at it as a timesheet, the timesheet effect. So depending what they're doing day to day, it will be very similar tasks to what they can count as off the job. So again, use it as a timesheet and make sure you're marking it as you go along. And we also ask for you to allow 1 hour a day for study time. And this is to help with assignments and assessments. We're flexible with this 1 hour a day. So even if you split this up during your day, or if you want to focus it more on maybe giving your individual half a day to have that time rather than spreading it out across the week, it is entirely up to you guys. Line managers and learners will be given access to Bud. As Sophie mentioned, Bud is our e-learning platform. So you will be able to access this on any device. And this is where you would upload your work, provide evidence, and of course, the tutor will mark and track of where you're at progress-wise. Quarterly reviews will be with the employer, apprentice, and tutor. And on these calls, it can roughly be around 20 minutes to an hour, depending on what topics we're discussing. But it's more about progress of where your current learner is at, and if they need any more additional time, or if we need them to add more to their portfolio. It's literally a nice little chat that we have between three. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Leah O'Byrne, who is the apprenticeship lead at Dorset County Hospital, one of our dearest clients.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Just to check, can everybody hear me okay? Is that all coming across? Fantastic. As I'm sure you can imagine, there are a lot of firewalls here, so I'm always quite conscious that people can't hear me. So thank you very, very much to the LMP team for inviting me to speak today. What an absolute pleasure. So as Lauren mentioned, I am the apprenticeship lead here at Dorset County Hospital. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about our organisation, but also about what we do and why we think that apprenticeships are valuable to our organisation, which they are very dearly. And we'll also go into a little bit more detail about the apprenticeship standards that the wonderful team at LMP support us with, and also give you a few testimonials about those who have worked with LMP as well, to just let you all know what a positive experience that is. So we are based at Dorset County Hospital. So I know you're all over the place. So we're down in Dorset, and our hospital is a busy modern hospital with a full range of district and general services, and we also have an emergency department. So as you can imagine, within our 3,500 members of staff, we have a very, very varied workforce, which makes my job all the more interesting because we have a lot of clinical and non-clinical staff. They are all based in very various locations. So that'll include the main hospital, some are in GP surgeries, some are in schools, residential homes, some are also doing home visits, and some are also in community hospitals. So it's an extremely diverse workforce. Can we switch to the next slide, please? Fabulous, thank you. I feel very important requesting that. Thank you. So there's a wonderful picture there of just some of our completers over the last year, and we're really proud of all that they have achieved. So I'm just going to run through a little bit about how we do things and how we run our apprenticeships here at Dorset County Hospital. So we offer apprenticeship courses to both existing employees and new recruits, which is what we refer to as a direct entry apprentices. So as Lauren, Emily and Sophie have already explained, those existing employees are where we offer those upskilling apprenticeships. So we're recognising their hard work, we're continuing to develop that pathway for them. And new recruits are sometimes, not always, those entry level employees who are looking to develop that pathway. So we'll be starting them initially with those entry level qualifications and helping them to continue with that development pathway. So in terms of apprentices that we have here at DCH, our apprentices are studying a range of 30 clinical and non-clinical apprenticeship standards. So that is ranging from a level 2 all the way up to a level 7, which is a master's equivalent. We have a dedicated apprenticeship team here, so we're very, very lucky to support all of our apprentices that are on programme. We support the enrolment, so whether that be pre-enrolment, having discussions around what courses it is that they think that would support them the most, what those options are, which providers are available, and also really researching for them what the prerequisites for each provider is, because that can also really vary. So it's really worth doing that research with your employees. And of course, we do offer that support beyond as well. So for those who have completed an apprenticeship, they may come back to us and talk about further development as well and how we can support that. So we're always there as a helping hand for our staff. So we're very lucky here at Dorset County Hospital, and I know there's a lot of taboo around apprentice wages as well, and we do pay all of our apprentices a full salary, and they also receive the full staff benefits, which I think helps them to really feel that they are a valued member of the team. So for us, even if they are an entry level apprentice, they will be getting the minimum of an NHS Band 2 salary, which is just over 23,500. So we really do value those members of our team, absolutely. So as the LMP team have already explained, and we do give our apprentices, we do give them a little bit more here actually. So we give ours 7.5 hours study per week, which then equates to just over that 20% off the job minimum. The only reason we do that is with the apprentice in mind. So we look at the shifts that our apprentices are going to be working. So the bare minimum for that weekly off the job is 6 hours, but actually a lot of our apprentices are working 7.5 hour shifts. So what we don't want to do is get them into a situation where their protected study time, which is 6 hours, is taken and then they come back to work. So I know the team have mentioned that some employers might give their apprentices an hour a day, but we like to give ours a block, and that just means they're away from the workplace. They can absolutely concentrate on their studies, and just gives them an opportunity to step away and have that real protected study time. We don't want to be disturbing them with anything that's work-based. We want them to really get into the nitty-gritty of their assignments. We do also support our apprentices with travel and accommodation expenses when needed. Now, that isn't an absolute requirement of employers, but it is just something else that we think continues to help support our apprentices. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Okay, so one thing we're super mindful of in our department is that each apprentice is completely unique and everybody's learning experience will be absolutely different. And it's really about tailoring the experience to the needs of the apprentice. And I think that's something to really be mindful of is where their needs are and where they need that support the most. So we do offer varied apprenticeship delivery options. So we do offer both face-to-face and virtual. I'm very conscious that every employer is completely different. We are super lucky that within our organisation, I'm based in an education centre. So we've got lots of education spaces and places where we are able to offer face-to-face training. That isn't always the case, and there's a lot of value in virtual training as well. But it might be that your apprentice feels they need to touch base with the provider a little more frequently or speak with their employer a little bit more frequently, and it's just about making sure they've got support in ways that are really important to them. As the team have already mentioned, there is a lot of changes around functional skills for apprentices at the moment, and it's very much in our infant stages about how we're going to react to those changes, because that is a very new announcement that I'm sure you've all heard on the news very recently. We do still offer within our organisation functional skills classes in-house, and they are available to all staff, but also to those who are wanting to complete an apprenticeship. And the reason that we do that is because we do also feel, regardless of those changes, that actually completing those functional skills ahead of doing your apprenticeship can also upskill you to a point where you find that level of study just a little bit less challenging. And it also does reduce pressure on some of the learners. So if they feel that they're doing a course which has elements of mathematics, it might help to do that functional skills level 2. And of course, just refreshing that English knowledge that they already have. Perhaps, you know, if formal education was a while ago, it might help to refresh and bring those grades up a little bit higher, because it can be a little bit daunting if it's been a while since you've last participated in formal education. We do also support our apprentices with their computer skills, which is something we find can be challenging for our apprentices as well. And I think it's not forgetting that, yes, they can do their assignments and have all the knowledge, skills and behaviours to complete that, and they may be a wonderful employee, but actually there's a separate amount of computer skills that are required to complete the apprenticeship. And actually sometimes just supporting them with that can make the difference between them completing their apprenticeship or not, because it's just something else that they may feel just a little overwhelming. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of apprenticeships. And for us, there are many of those. So one of the main things that I spend a lot of time on is working with workforce planners and also the department leads across our organisation. And I'm really invested in that long-term succession planning, talking about where roles might be coming up in the future, and what plans are for the future of the department, and how can we support those roles that are coming up with apprenticeship study. So we're looking at making sure that current staff are upskilled and ready for those roles of the future, so we can continue developing that workforce. And if it is that we need to introduce new talent, then absolutely, but we need to be really mindful of that time frame and making sure that we've given them the skills that they need ready for when that role becomes available. One of the main things that we always champion is that apprenticeships really do increase our staff retention, and we've done really well with that here at Dorset County Hospital. So the key takeaway from this is that apprentices are experiencing a higher level of job satisfaction, as we are really supporting them to advance in their careers and feel like a really valued member of the organisation. For our particular organisation, we started to offer apprenticeships to our staff back in 2017. And whilst we're really mindful we're not going to keep all staff, we are so proud of the fact that out of those apprenticeship completers, 80% have remained in the same department and have received promotions. So I think that speaks absolute volumes for how valued they feel that they are, and that they want to give back to the organisation, which is really lovely, especially when as an employer you've invested so much time in that into that individual. Two things that are super key to me, and something that I find very, very, I hold it dearly in my heart, shall we say, is that absolutely we are then supporting widening access to professions and diversifying the workforce, and that's something that I really like to champion in our organisation. We are offering an alternative route to traditional study, so it's really important to remember that not everybody always had access to university study routes. Not everybody may have, for one reason or another, really excelled at school and got the functional skills that they need. So it's about breaking down those barriers and saying, do you know what? They might be coming to you saying, I've got no qualifications so far. One of my favourite parts about my job is to say, okay, but what are we going to do to get you where you want to be? And honestly, it's really rewarding as an employer. And a really real key takeaway for that is, especially when you're advertising for those direct entry apprenticeships, is just remember to adjust the job entry requirements. Let's really shout about the fact that this is a trainee position, and we're going to make those roles all the more accessible for a broader range of applicants. And that's what's really important. Very often when I'm talking to department leads, and they'll sort of say, this is our job advert and this is what we're looking for, I have to kind of say, step it back, because those requirements that you're asking for are really quite high. They're not requirements of the course. And if you don't take those away, you're going to keep with a really small pool of applicants. So let's widen it as much as we can. Another thing to really think about is the improved level of productivity within your teams. So if you've got a really highly skilled workforce, it's going to boost performance and your department is going to be much more successful. And one of the key things that I do love about offering apprenticeships in our organisation is that we are gradually building a culture of learning and development. I'm sure we are all so busy every single day, and it's really easy to say, I don't have time for that. I'd really love to do that, but 6 months down the line, you review that you've never quite got to it, and there's a course that you're desperate to do, or something that you want to upskill yourself with, or the rest of your team, and it's really hard to find the time. What I find with apprenticeships is where you've got that protected study time, it really ensures that you carve that time out and you concentrate on personal development. It allows yourself or those team members to step away from the workplace and really concentrate on developing themselves, which again is always going to make your team feel really rewarded. Next slide, please. So one thing that I'm always very proud to explain to everybody is that one of the reasons that I believe in the power of apprenticeships is because I was one. So not to bore you all with my history of employment, but I was working in London and I had a job in fashion way back when. That was my passion, and I really wanted to move back to Dorset, which will surprise none of you that fashion industry is just not the same down here. So I quickly thought, you know what, I really want to transfer those skills into something that I know I can succeed in. And I was really conscious that I had a high volume of administration skills. I was really used to liaising with many different providers. I was very used to using those persuasive skills that we all use all the time, and really used to negotiating with many people and bringing all of those teams together. So in my role now, I'm always liaising with apprenticeship providers. I'm always liaising with the employee themselves, and I'm always liaising with the line managers as well. And I'm bringing everybody together at all times. And those were skills that were very transferable from that previous life. So I came and joined Dorset County Hospital as an entry-level practice education administrator. It was in the thick of COVID when the world seemed like a very crazy place. And I just wanted to start a role and kind of use that as my foot in the door and work my way back up. And I knew that I needed to prove my worth whilst I was doing so, because I didn't have, although I had transferable skills, I needed to show my employer actually how important those skills that I already had were. So I started in a job as an entry-level practice education administrator. I was on a conveyor belt of work. I worked as hard as humanly possible. And then I asked for some further development, which I was very lucky to be honoured that by my employer at the time. I'd only been working for the organisation for 4 weeks before they said, yeah, absolutely, you can do that. And it really is about, supporting those employers where you can. If they're asking for more, give it to them, because they are going to give you the world down the line. I can promise you that. So I did complete my business administration level 3 apprenticeship. With that, the pace of how you complete that course is completely up to you. So yes, that course is supposed to take around 18 months to complete, but the minimum amount of time that you can be on that course is actually a year and a week. So guess what? I pushed my way through it and did it as quickly as humanly possible because I knew where I wanted to get to. So then I went into a practice education administration supervisor role. So in that one, what I then did was I was supervising the rest of the admin team. I had several members of the team that I was looking after, because I thought, yeah, I know that I know these administration roles. I know how to do that, and I really need to work on my supervision and my line management, because it's something that I'd done in previous organisations, but I hadn't done here. So then I really recognised my passion for apprenticeships, moved into apprenticeship coordinator role. which is when I first started in this team. And that was really valuable because it gave me lots of chance to really get involved in some project management within the NHS that I haven't managed to do before, and really learn the bones of apprenticeships. We've got a lot of internal training here as well. So I completed some NHS management matters, preparing me for line management responsibilities. I then had direct line management added to my role, and I completed NHS Leadership Academy courses to really give me the leadership skills that I needed, and that brought me to my role today, which is the apprenticeship for managing a team and looking after just over 200 apprentices. So all I can say here is, yes, I already came in with a degree, but it wasn't relevant to my role. But what I did was pick up the skills that I needed through an apprenticeship and continue that development pathway. And that's where this is really powerful. So I absolutely champion apprenticeships. And I will always say to anyone in my organisation, look, I did it as well, and it can get you to where you want to be. So absolutely, it's worth considering. And then just one more slide from me, please. So we have been working with LMP since 2021, and apprenticeship standards. So they support us with the business administration level 3, library information and archive services assistant, the team leader or supervisor, operations or departmental manager, and community health and wellbeing worker. One thing I am so proud of LMP for is the support that they give our apprentices. They do an incredible job. Whatever I ask is never too much trouble, and I know all of the apprentices say exactly the same. And I just want to say, as I flagged up in my big star there, that we have an 100% distinction pass rate for our business administration apprenticeship with LMP, and the support that they've given those apprentices is just absolutely astounding. So that's just capturing who has completed. Everybody else there is still on program, and I am absolutely certain we will get some incredible results from there as well. One thing I always challenge LMP for is that they are really reactive for our business needs. They are absolutely brilliant. They are constantly asking what we need, and they do their very best to fulfill that in whichever way that they can. So as I mentioned previously, we quite like to mix up the face-to-face training sometimes, because we think virtual delivery is brilliant, but actually sometimes we speak to our apprentices and they say, I just really need to see my tutor. I really want to catch up with them face to face. And LMP have been brilliant. They've come down and visited us. We've booked a room for them. They've got our level 3 and level 5 leadership apprentices all in one room. They've done one big session for them. So, don't always look at the delivery as it stands. They are always willing to do what you need as an organisation to support the apprentices. They've also created a medical administrator pathway on the business administration course to support our workforce, and that is an idea created in a meeting with the lovely Sophie and her colleague, where I sort of said, I love having the business administration apprenticeship, but it's not always relevant to those that are working in the medical sector. Actually, they're being asked to do things that are really challenging, that aren't typical administration responsibilities. They're being asked to write letters with medical terminology. They're being asked to listen to something that consultant is said, and an audio type, which is really challenging. And how can we support those things that they're doing? So we've been working with them to make sure that it really is a valuable course for our workforce. And also, finally, our organisation was the trailblazer for the community health and wellbeing worker apprenticeship. Again, it was one of those things in a meeting I kept saying, I've got a perfect candidate for this. Let's do it. Let's launch it. And we worked together to do that. So honestly, I cannot thank LMP enough for all the hard work that they have done. Lastly, I have got a testimonial from one of our fabulous apprentices. So Jack, one of our employees here at the Trust, has completed the Information and Archive Services Assistant. So he's working in the library here at Dorset County Hospital. He was our first ever apprentice with LMP, and my goodness, didn't they do a brilliant job, because obviously we've continued to work with them with lots of different apprenticeship standards now. And one thing I will say is he started his apprenticeship in September 2021, and he earned that qualification. He worked very, very hard, and the course that covered a vast span of fascinating topics like knowledge management, document preservation, and copyright. And these are all things that have helped to really increase our library services. Jack completely champions the engaging tutors that were always available to support his learning, and he says how very grateful he was for their help. And I will say as well, any time that I had to call and say, you know, Jack could do with a bit of support with this, they were there within minutes every time. So they really are brilliant at supporting their apprentices. So for Jack's endpoint assessment for this particular course, he did the very first ever knowledge cafe in the library, and it was really well received. And what's brilliant about that is it's continued to pave the way for other dynamic activities in the library. It's something we now regularly do, and we've made it more of a work hub in our library. So it's absolutely fantastic. The most important takeaway from this is that Jack feels that it's really boosted his confidence and his ability to study. He is looking to advance his career in librarianship, and he is now looking at going to do degree apprenticeships and level 7 apprenticeships and beyond. So it's really made him think about his personal capabilities as well. And most importantly, he's very keen to stay working in this completely vibrant sector and work with the NHS. So I'm really, really grateful that, again, that's another member of our team that's very keen to stay with us. So that's everything from me. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. And if anybody does have any questions at all, do feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'm happy to respond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leah. That was fantastic and really nice to hear really heartwarming to see how that's helped your business. So more from me in terms of, as well as those fantastic tutors, we also have a learner and client engagement team. So I just thought I would talk a little bit about this from an apprentice perspective, and also the support for clients that this offers. So in terms of apprentices, the learner and client team will also do 4-week check-in calls. So this is to establish that learning journey is going well so far. It can be quite daunting going from working full-time if it is an upskill to then taking on an apprenticeship as well. Alongside that, we will offer robust progression advice, as previously mentioned, and CIAG throughout their apprenticeship, as well as support with any concerns they may have in relation to the apprenticeship setting or delivery expectations. So just making sure that everything is as expected. We will tailor the learning journey and support them for their needs. So we have a fantastic learning support team as well. So if there are any reasonable adjustments and any specific educational needs that we may need to alter things for, we also are really good at that in terms of whether that be additional time, support systems, visual aids, those kinds of things. The support we offer for clients, we ensure that your staff feel supported and do get that help and expertise as required. There's clear communication between yourselves and delivery. So in terms of having those remote sessions or those face-to-face visits can be at a convenient time for you. So that communication needs to be key to book that in. We have a quick response time on all questions and queries and aim to respond to those within 5 days. There is a real close sort of hand-holding service that we provide, as well as that progression advice with yourselves to help get your staff, support with staff retention and fill those skill gaps that you have. And we currently offer this support. We have got over 1,700 apprentices and over 800 clients. So it is a busy time. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you. So just wanted to share with you some of the apprenticeship programs that we have here at LMP Education. And of course, also our RateMyApprenticeship Best Training Provider. So we're very proud of that. So you can see here the courses are split in different departments. Now, just to give you a bit of an overview of what each section means. So obviously it mentions level there. Of course, that's the level of the qualification. The practical period is when they're with their tutor, maybe working on their portfolio, having those one-to-one sessions. EPA is when they're under endpoint assessment. So this is the duration of what we tend to give once they're under EPA. And then, of course, the total duration there, just in months. The funding value, now this is important. So this is, obviously, it looks quite an astonishing amount of money, but how it works is, of course, if you're levy, this is what would be taken from your levy pot, not in complete sort of, right, we're taking the early years practitioner, £4,000, that comes straight out. We don't do it like that. We like to split it up. And also it's just so you can sort of monitor what other funds you have to maybe upskill more employees or to take on another apprentice. Now, for the non-levy payers, this gives you an idea of the 5% that would be on with that. So, you've got the business admin, which is at £5,000. 5% of that is £250. It just gives you a bit of an idea. And as I mentioned before, of course, we do payment plans for this. One thing that I would need to highlight, not that this, I don't know if this would be a course of interest within your sector, but obviously we do have a commercial program there, which is for our higher level teaching assistants. This is a commercial course, which means it wouldn't come from any levy part, unfortunately. It is something that you'd have to look at your budget. But that course mainly fits within schools.
Brilliant, thanks, Lauren. So as part of National Apprenticeship Week, we are delivering 6 different webinars. Obviously, we're halfway through the week now, but if you want to get involved on any of the advertised webinars on Thursday and Friday, please just scan the QR code. And that is it from us. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that you've managed to take something from this that you didn't already know. But again, if you want to just scan the QR code for more information, book a discovery call with one of the team, please do so. We have had a couple of questions come through to the Q&A box. So Sophie and Lauren, could I sort of ask you these? We can get some of these answered. First one is, are there any special supervision arrangements for an apprentice beyond the usual line management role?
Okay, Sophie, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, so in terms, I think I know what you mean. In terms of supervision, as in to support the learner itself, so they will have their own tutor. So if they have an additional need, they'll also have a learning support tutor as well to support them. Those sessions are typically remotely once a month. Or more often if needed. In terms of, yeah, I think if that's what you mean by supervision, I don't know if you want to clarify any further.
Maybe also as well, if you don't have a line manager as say, make sure you have a mentor as well in place that can help support you. Because there might be aspects of the course that you might need to ask your line manager for some support and some advice. And there might be times where they might want to shadow their line manager or mentor as well. So just something to take note of.
Okay, lovely, thank you. The next one, will employees still be eligible for non-levy apprenticeships if they already have higher qualifications in an unrelated field?
So yeah, I mean, what we would do on our eligibility side of things is obviously have that initial call with the potential learner and just make sure that there's no overlap on courses. We have had instance where they may have had done a business degree, but they want to go on a business admin course. Unfortunately, that overlaps too much, and they're they're highly qualified for it. So it'd be such a shame for them to have to go back and then have to do all of that, the work that they've already done. So they wouldn't actually be eligible for that. So let's say, for example, I mean, Leah sort of mentioned about how she's done a degree, but it was something completely different to what the apprenticeship course she did. So she was able to further her skill sets and focus on another sector of an apprenticeship course. So we would obviously work closely with yourselves and the potential learner and just make sure there's no overlap there. And yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Brilliant, thank you. David asked, what sort of courses are your talent pool looking into? So within the recruitment function, our talent pool is sort of predominantly for the vacancies that we're already recruiting for. So like I previously said, the business admin, your teaching assistant roles, your accountancy roles, your early years roles. So yeah, it's sort of, if you will get the slides emailed to you afterwards. So it's sort of based around the programs that we are delivering.
Yeah, what I would say as well, just to add on that, is if you do have a vacancy in mind and you're not necessarily sure if it would match to one of our apprenticeship courses, send it across to us and then we'll get our team of experts in our delivery team just to have a look and make sure that we can match it to one of our apprenticeship courses. If we can't, then, we'd be honest and say, unfortunately, I think you'd need to look at maybe more of a specialist course for this. And we can help, sort of find you maybe another provider if you were looking for something more specialist. But yeah, we try and work as much as we can with yourselves and honesty is the best policy.
Yeah, definitely. Another one regarding upskilled pathways. So I'd like to know more about the upskilled pathway. What subjects can be offered in this pathway?
So again, I suppose it's kind of going back on a little bit about what we just mentioned about just making sure that we're matching it up to the right course, I suppose, depending on that individual and what job role they're in, what career path is it that they want to go in. And we have created recently some bespoke training platforms. We're working with Bill's restaurants at the moment, and we're really helping build a training plan for them to have those initial career paths that is matching to Bill's branding, their culture, their core values. So again, if that's something of interest, we'll definitely, have a discussion, see what you're currently, what you currently have in your organization, and see if we can sort of implement something for you to suit your needs.
Okay, a couple more. I'd also like to know how apprenticeships are applied for and who pays for the apprenticeship.
So who pays for the apprenticeship? Well, I suppose it wouldn't be the learner, it would be down to the employer. And again, I suppose it goes back to if they're part of levy or non-levy. What was the first part of that question? Sorry, Emily, you cut out a little bit.
It is anonymous, I don't have a name. I would also like to know how apprenticeships are applied for and who pays for the apprenticeship.
Applied for. So, I mean, if that means how to apply for them, or would you say? I mean, that
Yeah,
would
I
be,
think
yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, or anyone can go on an apprenticeship as well. So, at any age, there's no restriction. Of course, they have to be 16 and over. But yeah, there's no age restriction, depending on obviously the position that they're in or what position they're looking for. As Emily mentioned, we do obviously work with the National Apprenticeship Service, and on there is all different courses. We put all of our vacancies on there as well. So again, I think it's more about having that call with that individual and just sort of knowing what it is that they want to go forward with.
Lovely. So Abigail's asked, what has the level of interest been like for the business admin level 3? So if this is sort of from a recruitment aspect, business admin is definitely one of our most popular courses. I would say it's one of our easiest to recruit for. We have definitely more interest on our talent pool as well. I think business admin can open up so many doors for a new apprentice, so it is definitely one of our most popular courses. And then you've also asked Abigail about the recruitment process for a new apprentice. I think from experience, just keeping the process simple, not offering sort of too many interview stages, not asking for sort of a presentation or anything like that. I think just really getting to know the individual on a one-to-one basis, maybe showing them around the office, the setting where they're going to be based, and just making sure that they're right for you. So yeah, just nothing too lengthy. I think you've got to probably understand that apprentices are applying for a lot of different roles. They're eager to get into that apprenticeship setting, into that training. So I think longing out the process can mean that you do sort of lose the candidates along the way because they've managed to find, something more suitable. So should we do one or two more? The next one is non-levy accessible for older apprentices over the age of 25?
Oh, 100%. Like, as I say, there's no age restriction whatsoever. I had a conversation with a lady last week who is looking to upskill herself into business administration, and she's 50 plus. And I said, by all means, everyone and anyone is welcome to go on our apprenticeship courses.
Lovely. Should we do last one?
Yeah, why
Just
not?
conscious of time. The last question is, if you're paying for the levy, what happens if you overspend the amount that you pay in?
Yeah, so this can happen quite often, and we'd help to obviously oversee that. But what we would do is we would invoice you to the amount that would be taken on the month of, and then half the time a lot of the levy is already pending to come through. So hopefully, you'd have more levy coming in as that happens. But we would make sure that and make you aware of that before we obviously invoice you that cost, because sometimes you might have someone that doesn't necessarily check it every day, or they might have monthly meetings to just make sure and keep on top of their levy that way. So we would inform you, but like I say, we would obviously send out a separate invoice. And again, when I sort of showed you on the course listing there, the business admin, for example, obviously it said £5,000. It wouldn't be like an invoice of £5,000, of course, and not to scare anyone, but it would be obviously depending on the amount that was owed, that would be what the invoice would be.
Brilliant. Thank you. Leah, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt there. I was just going to add something from an employer's perspective. One of my biggest parts of advice would be in my levy pot, and obviously we have lots of apprentices over in our organisation. I always make sure there is a certain amount of what I refer to as historical funds in my levy pot. So it just means that I've always got that little bit of a buffer to play with, because of course, for anyone who hasn't dealt with apprenticeships in their organisation before, you may not be aware that I know you've brushed on the fact that actually those course fees come out sort of bit by bit throughout the duration of the course, but you do have a slightly higher completion fee at the end. So depending on the academic calendar and where we are, sometimes we do get an influx of completion payments. So it's just something to be mindful, and how big that expense is will always depend on how many apprentices that you do have on program. So what we tend to do is always just keep, you know, a little bit below what we need to, so that actually over time we have got a flow of a few thousand in that levy of what we just call it. There is that buffer for, you know, those sometimes surprises that happen. Organizations do it differently, but I sometimes like to think of it as I would my own bank account, and if you don't have a little bit of savings, it can make you a little bit nervous. So that would absolutely be my advice.
No, that's great advice.
Thanks, Leah.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. If you do have any more questions, like I said, if you want to book a call in with the team, please do so. Use the QR code, reach out to myself or Lauren. But yeah, hopefully we've answered any questions that you might have. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.